My husband's family called me, just temporary, then I took the mic and told everything. They laughed when she said it. Like I wasn't sitting right there. Like I didn't count. But I did. So when they handed me the mic, I stood up and said what no one expected to be said out loud. It was supposed to be a celebration. 40th wedding anniversary. Gold centerpieces. Waiters and gloves. Toasts about legacy and love. I sat at the family table, holding our daughter, smiling like I belonged, even though I knew I didn't. Then Grant's sister looked right at me and said, "Let's not forget, she's just temporary." The table chuckled. My husband didn't flinch, didn't say a word, didn't even look at me. That's when it hit me. They never saw me as family. They never planned to. And he was okay with that. So when they passed me the mic, expecting a sweet little speech, I smiled, stood up, and tore the whole thing wide open. I used to think Grant was different. He listened, back then, asked questions, held eye contact like it mattered. He took a piece of hair behind my ear and say things like, "You're the calm I didn't know I needed." And maybe, in the beginning, I was. We met through mutual friends. He was polished, well-spoken, charming in the way that made other people lean in when he talked. I was quieter, still finding my voice. But he made space for me, or at least, he did at first. The shift was slow, subtle, like water going cold. After we got married, it started with corrections. Tiny things. "You meant fewer, not less. Don't wear flats with that dress. Try not to interrupt my dad when he's talking." Then came the comparisons. His mom cooked better. His sister dressed sharper. He never said I was lacking, he just made sure I knew where the bar was. When I got pregnant, everything changed again. I was sick for months. Could barely keep anything down. He called from work to ask what was for dinner. "I've been throwing up all day," I said. He sighed. "Just order something then." I did. And I apologized. I kept apologizing. Through swollen ankles. Through sleepless nights. Through the slow, disorienting drift from partner to prop. When our daughter, Lily, arrived, it should have felt like a fresh beginning. Instead, it felt like I'd stepped into a role I never auditioned for. He didn't hold her much. Said he didn't want to do it wrong. Then he said I had a natural instinct for all the baby things: diapers, feeding, naps. Translation, it was all mine now. The nights were long. I'd rock her while folding laundry with one hand, checking if bottles were sterilized with the other. He slept. Always. I convinced myself he was tired from work. That I should do more because I was home. Even when I wasn't okay. Even when my chest felt like it was being sat on. Even when I hadn't showered in 3 days. I smiled through it, because his family was watching. His mother liked me, in the way someone likes a decorative bowl on a hallway table. Useful. Pretty. Out of the way. At family dinners, I was expected to help in the kitchen, hold the baby, keep quiet when politics came up. One time, I offered a different opinion on something, just casually. Grant's sister gave me that look. That frozen smile, head tilt look women use when they're deciding whether you're worth the effort of correcting. Afterwards, Grant said, "You don't have to prove anything. Just let things go." So I did. I let go of my job. I let go of Friday nights with friends. I let go of the version of me who used to laugh at bad movies and take spontaneous road trips and dance while brushing her teeth. I became the woman who remembered where everything was. The wipes. The formula. The pacifier with the green rim. I became invisible, but efficient. "The last time I saw my own mother," she said, "you look tired, baby." I just nodded. Because what else do you say when you don't recognize yourself anymore? Still, I stayed. Because of Lily. Because of fear. Because starting over felt too big, too far, too much. And then came the night of the anniversary party. I was already worn thin before we walked into that ballroom. But I wore the dress Grant picked. Did my hair the way his mother liked. Put on lipstick I hadn't touched in months. I smiled, took photos, held Lily on my hip like she was my anchor and my shield. And when they toasted the decades of love, when they thanked everyone for being part of this beautiful legacy, I wondered if they even saw me as part of it. That question stayed with me like a stone in my throat until the moment they handed me the microphone. But that part comes later. What matters is, I didn't start out angry. I started out believing I was lucky, grateful, chosen. Turns out, I was just convenient. Until I wasn't. The venue was stunning. White roses, crystal chandeliers, gold-rimmed glassware that caught the light just right. Everything about it said elegance, legacy, power. Everything about it said, I didn't belong. I walked in beside Grant, carrying Lily on my hip. He didn't offer to help. Didn't even glance at her. He was too busy fixing his cufflinks, checking his reflection in every passing surface. We were placed at the family table. Of course. Front and center. The perfect view of the stage. The perfect place to be watched. His mother greeted me with a kiss that barely brushed my cheek. His father gave me a polite nod, then launched into conversation with someone 3 seats away. No one asked how I was, or how Lily was sleeping. I was just there, decorative. The servers brought out wine. Grant accepted his glass. I asked for water. He raised an eyebrow. You could try enjoying yourself, Savannah, he muttered. I forced a smile. I lied. Dinner was long. Speeches even longer. His uncle told the same story he told at our wedding about how Grant came from a family of builders. How they didn't believe in shortcuts or weakness. How they raised their sons to lead. I looked around the table, saw wives like me smiling, nodding, folding napkins just right. I wondered if they felt it too. That cold weight in your stomach when you realize you're not part of the celebration. You're part of the decor. Then came the moment that cracked something open. We were between courses. Soft music played. A few people were standing, chatting, laughing. Grant's sister leaned across the table, swirling her wine. She was tipsy. Or maybe just tired of pretending. She smirked and said, "Let's not forget Savannah's just temporary." The words hung there. Light. Casual. But sharp enough to slice skin. Someone at the table chuckled. Another cleared their throat. I blinked. Did I hear that right? I looked at Grant. He didn't laugh. But he didn't flinch either. He just took another sip of wine, set his glass down, and looked away. I felt my throat tighten. Not from shock, but from the confirmation. This wasn't a slip. This wasn't new. This was what they thought. What he let them think. What he maybe thought, too. I shifted Lily gently in my arms, kissed the top of her head. She cooed, unaware. I sat there in silence, my face still, my chest on fire. Nobody apologized. Nobody corrected her. They just moved on. Someone made a toast to real love that lasts. And I almost laughed. Because I knew now whatever this was, it wasn't real love. I didn't say anything that night. Not to his sister. Not to Grant. Not to anyone. What was there to say? They weren't trying to hide it anymore. Later, in the hallway outside the restroom, I ran into a woman I barely knew. She used to date one of Grant's cousins. Long dark hair. Wide, tired eyes. She looked at me for a moment, then said quietly, "You're not the first." I blinked. "Excuse me." She glanced down the hallway, then leaned in. "I was you, once," she said. "The outsider. The accessory. The one who didn't quite fit." I didn't know what to say. My mouth opened. Closed. She gave me a sad smile. "They don't love you, Savannah. They tolerate you. And only as long as you stay quiet." Then she walked away. That should have hurt. But it didn't. Because I already knew. The moment Grant didn't react to what his sister said. When he didn't even try to look surprised. That's when I knew I'd never been seen. Not really. Not as a partner. Not as a mother. Not as a person. I'd been auditioning for a role that was never meant for me to keep. They had always planned on someone else. Someone more appropriate. Someone who didn't talk back. Someone who came from the right kind of family. Grant used to say I made him better. But better was conditional. As long as I didn't make things uncomfortable. As long as I played the part. As long as I didn't remind him that I had edges of my own. That night, back at home, I tucked Lily into bed. Watched her sleep. Then sat in the hallway and stared at the wall for almost an hour. I wasn't angry yet. I wasn't brave yet. But I was awake. And I couldn't go back to sleep. The next morning, Grant was already dressed when I came into the kitchen. He poured his coffee. Didn't say good morning. Didn't ask how Lily slept. He just said, flatly, "Don't forget my parents are coming by at 3. Then he added, without looking up, "And try not to bring up last night." I didn't answer. Because what would I say? Sorry your sister called me disposable and you let it happen? Sorry I'm still here, holding the baby you never hold? Instead, I stood by the sink. Watched him sip. Flip through his phone. Leave. Like nothing had happened. And that's when I started writing a list. Not a dramatic one. Not a how-to-escape checklist. Just things. Bank account. Resume. Daycare. I hadn't touched design work since Lily was born. Grant said it wasn't necessary. He made enough. And besides, what kind of mother leaves her baby with strangers to design logos? But that night, after Lily went to sleep, I opened my old laptop. It took 10 minutes to boot. When the software finally launched, I stared at the screen and cried. Not because I was sad, but because it felt like I'd found a door I thought was sealed shut. I took on small jobs. Nothing big. A logo for a cafe. A banner for a blogger. They paid pennies, but I didn't care. Because each one said, you can still do something. One client, Nancy from Colorado, messaged, "This is beautiful. You really understood what I wanted." Thank you. I stared at those words for a long time. No one had thanked me in months. Maybe years. I opened a separate bank account. Moved the money quietly. Sold old clothes online. Kept receipts. Saved everything. I didn't tell Grant. He didn't ask. But I knew he noticed something. He started coming home later. Smelled like whiskey and someone else's perfume. Said it was networking. I didn't ask. I already knew the rhythm of lies. Short. Dismissive. Practiced. Then one Thursday, Lily had a fever. I called Grant at work. His assistant picked up, then transferred me. When he came on the line, his voice was cold. I said, "I think I need to take her to urgent care." There was a pause. Then, "You can handle this. Why are you calling me for everything?" "I'm not," I said, stunned. "This is the first time." He cut me off. "I'm in a meeting." Click. That night, while Lily slept in my arms, I opened a folder labeled taxes. Inside, I hid something else. Screenshots. Pay stubs. Notes. I started calling women's centers, just to ask. Nothing drastic. Just, in case. Then came a message from Lauren, an old college friend. We hadn't spoken in 6 years. She'd seen my name on a client site. "You still doing freelance work?" "Yes," I typed. Before I could overthink it, we met at a coffee shop the following week. Neutral ground. I wore mascara for the first time in months. Not for vanity. For armor. She looked the same. Sharp smile. Loud laugh. Familiar warmth. "You look good," she said. "I'm surviving," I answered. She looked at me for a long moment. Then said, quietly, "If you ever need help, real help, call me. My firm hires remote. We have a daycare stipend. I can float your name." I blinked. "You'd do that?" "You were the best in our class," she said. "I always thought you gave up too early." I smiled. A real one. That night, I sent her my resume. Grant never asked why I was smiling while folding laundry. And I didn't tell him, because I wasn't done building the life he'd never get to ruin. The night before I left, the house was too quiet. Lily was asleep. Grant was watching TV, beer in hand, legs stretched out like a man at peace. I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to scroll. But really, I was reviewing every step. The new bank account. The burner phone hidden behind the coffee filters. The folder tucked under Lily's diapers, triple sealed in a plastic bag, marked growth chart. Everything was ready. At midnight, I walked past his office. He was staring at nothing. Didn't look at me. I almost said something. Not goodbye. Not a warning. Just something. But there was no point. Because I'd said everything for years. And he never heard a word. I lay in bed with Lily beside me. Her breath was soft. Steady. My heart wasn't. I counted her fingers. Kissed her forehead. Whispered promises she couldn't understand. Yet, at 3:14 a.m., I slipped out of bed. My feet were cold against the floorboards. I moved slow, quiet, controlled. No lights. Just memory guiding my way. I picked up Lily, still wrapped in her sleep. She stirred, but didn't cry. The emergency bag was already in the trunk. I held her close as I opened the back door. The air hit me hard, cold, sharp, like the world saying go. Keys in hand. Phone in pocket. Engine off until the last second. I placed Lily in the car seat. Belted her in. Closed the door soft. Then I turned around. And saw the porch light flick on. He was standing there. Barefoot. Silent. We locked eyes. For 1, 2, maybe 3 seconds. He didn't speak. Didn't run. Just stood there. And I didn't wait. My foot hit the gas before I could blink. I didn't look back again. The streets were empty. The stoplights felt too long. Every shadow looked like a threat. But I kept driving. Hands gripping the wheel so tight my knuckles turned white. Lily slept through it all. At 4:43 a.m., I pulled into the shelter's lot. A woman named Rosa opened the door. Different Rosa, but same warmth. She didn't ask questions. Didn't need to. She just said, "Come in." Inside, they gave me a room with a lock on the inside. A crib for Lily. A toothbrush. A moment to breathe. I sat on the edge of the bed and finally exhaled. No crying. No shaking. Just stillness. For the first time in years, I felt the floor beneath me and knew I was safe. I didn't know what came next. Didn't know how long we'd stay. Didn't know what Grant would do once he realized I was gone. But I knew this much. We were out. We were safe. And I wasn't going back. 2 weeks after I left, Thomas called. He said he and Claire were holding a post-wedding dinner, just a quiet celebration for extended family. Nothing fancy. Just one last chance to say thanks. We'd love for you to speak again, he said. People still talk about what you said at the anniversary party. I almost laughed, but I said yes, because I knew Richard would be there. Of course he would. And he'd already started spinning his version. That I'd had a breakdown. That I took Lily without permission. That I was in some kind of facility. He told his mother I was unstable. Told mine I was overwhelmed. Told everyone he was concerned. He wasn't. He was cornered. And men like him don't admit fear. They call it love. The night of the dinner, I wore a dress I borrowed from the shelter's donation closet. Plain. Simple. Clean. I walked in alone. Head high. Claire hugged me. Thomas smiled. Richard stood near the back, arms folded, pretending I didn't exist. They handed me the mic after dessert. I took a deep breath, held it like a shield, and started. When I spoke at their wedding, I said I talked about how marriage is about seeing each other. And I meant that. Pause, breathe, speak. But what I didn't say, what I didn't have the strength to say, is that sometimes, before someone else can see you, you have to see yourself. The room quieted. No clinking of glasses. No whispers. Just stillness. I spent years thinking I was less. That if I just tried harder, shrank smaller, stayed quieter, love would come back. I glanced toward Richard. His jaw was tight, his eyes sharp. But love didn't come back, I said. Because what I was giving wasn't being seen as love. It was being seen as obligation, as weakness, as convenience. A few heads turned toward him now. I didn't raise my voice, didn't name names. I didn't need to. I left, I said clearly, not because I didn't love, but because I finally loved myself more than someone else's comfort. I handed the mic back, walked off the stage, and as I passed Richard, I looked him in the eye for the first time in months. He said nothing, because there was nothing left to say. Back at the shelter that night, I held Lily against my chest, and whispered the same 3 words I'd been saying every night since we left. We are free. The room was quiet when I got back. Lily was already asleep, one hand curled near her cheek, breathing steady. I sat on the edge of the bed, kicked off my shoes, and exhaled. No applause. No parade. Just silence. And somehow, that was enough. That night, I didn't cry. I didn't replay the speech. Didn't wonder if anyone believed me. Because it didn't matter anymore. I hadn't spoken for them. I'd spoken for the version of me who used to whisper, "I'm fine," while folding towels with tears in her throat. The version who memorized everyone else's preferences and forgot her own name. The woman who once believed that if she kept everything in order, she'd eventually be seen. She was gone now. Not erased, but finally at rest. The next morning, I woke up early, poured coffee in a chipped white mug, opened my inbox. There it was, my onboarding paperwork. Subject line, "Welcome to the team." I smiled. A quiet one. No one to witness it, no one to validate it. And that was the best part. It wasn't about proving anything anymore. It wasn't about revenge. It was about options. And options meant freedom. Later that day, I took Lily for a walk. There was a park near the shelter. Small, fenced in, but filled with sunlight. She reached for a leaf, giggled at a bird. I laughed with her, really laughed, for the first time in longer than I could remember. There's no dramatic ending here. No perfect apartment. No final courtroom twist. Not yet, anyway. Just steady steps. A job. A place to land. A future with no shadows in the hallway. Richard still texts sometimes. Short, clipped messages like, "We need to talk. You made this harder than it had to be." I don't respond. Not because I'm angry, but because I'm done being baited back into the silence. Some things don't deserve closure. Some things just need distance. And I have that now. At night, when I close my eyes, there's still worry. Still unknowns. Still courts and custody and complicated logistics. But there's also something else. Peace. Not the kind you win. The kind you choose. And this time, I'm choosing it. For Lily. For me. For the version of myself who finally decided. Enough is enough.